How can Nigerian businesses be assisted to develop greater capacity to compete, as well as increase their profit margins in their own country? That seems to be the question nagging the minds of indigenous stakeholders who last Wednesday converged on Lagos to chew on a possible way out, especially in the maritime sector. Our next guest is Dr. Muda Yusuf, who is the CEO of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise and a former Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He was at that forum and led the call for the federal government to review the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission Act to restrict foreign investors from having unlimited access into business operations where there is enough indigenous capacity. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf, and welcome to the morning show today. Dr. Yusuf, good morning. Can you hear us? All right, it looks like there's a slight technical glitch there. All right, let's talk a bit about what we're expecting Dr. Yusuf to come and discuss with us. I think that the forum on Wednesday was quite illuminating, and the submissions by Dr. Yusuf, of course known for his candid, detailed views, are very germane. Essentially, he's calling on the president, calling on every stakeholders, particularly the minister of the blue economy, the former governor of Osun State. You know that there is a lot that we can do, and where it will be important to start will be a review of the NIPC law, which seems to give an undue advantage, to foreigners within our maritime sector at a time that he believed that there is enough capacity for local players. And he says that even if you think that capacity is not sufficient at this time, he thinks that opportunities, can give room for capacity. And I think that was an important thing for him to say, also calling on the president to expand the scope of his executive orders to compel, if you like, trying to use that word decidedly, to compel that there should be a lot more attention in patronizing, everything Nigerian. And of course, he also mentioned something that will be of interest to you, echoing what Trump said in America, saying that Nigeria first. Nigeria first. Would that be politically correct to make that a subject of campaign, which is one of the things that I would like Dr. Yusuf, to clarify?
I'd say one thing, particularly about buy Nigerian to grow the Naira. It is very easy to do in areas where Nigeria excels at and where we have expertise at, and when we've allowed the sector to grow, right? So I rarely look at clothes on the internet to buy anywhere other than a Nigerian brand. If I want to go to a wedding or if I want to go anywhere, I feel like, our ready-to-wear market has grown. Even, our tailor market has grown. Even our makeup artists now, they create their own makeup. You don't have to go and buy a foreign brand if you want to buy eyeliner. But the thing there is that we have seen growth in the market and we have seen expertise, and they are meeting and surpassing global best practices.
Absolutely.
Sometimes maybe, quality control is not the same as if you go abroad, but the difference is not so broad. And so you're willing to just pay that money to support a smaller Nigerian brand. But, but we also have to think about the importance of global best practices when it comes to great issues like this.
Fantastic. All right, so let's pose all these questions to Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf, good morning. Good to have you back on the morning show. I was trying to greet you very warmly, but you didn't hear. But welcome to the morning show. It's always a pleasure to have you on our program, Dr. Yusuf.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Steve.
Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
And my dear sister as well.
All right, that's Adesua with me here. All right, Dr. Yusuf, Wednesday turned out to be an important day for those who believe in everything Nigerian. The Grow Nigeria, Buy Nigerian concept, which was what you spoke to, interestingly, at that forum. Talk to us about what you had in mind, particularly regarding the area of NIPC Act, which you believe is in dire need of review if we do not want foreigners to continue to dominate some aspects of our maritime sector. What are the problems? Why do you think that at this point in time, the key stakeholders, including the president, should support your advocacy for a review of the NIPC Act?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, first of all, let me say up front that we need foreign investors. And practically all countries need foreign investors. So we don't have anything against foreign investors or foreign investment. But the point is that economic development is also about indigenous participation across all sectors, not just maritime. And we have not paid sufficient attention to this very important element of economic development. The only area where we have been very deliberate about ensuring indigenous participation is in the oil and gas sector. That is through the Local Content or National Content Act. And we can see the tremendous impact, the incredible impact that act has had on Nigerians who are investing in that sector. Because the law created space and made it compulsory for Nigerians to be part of the process, either fully or in partnership with foreign investors. This is the way it should be. Now, we have an NIPC Act, that's the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission Act of 1995. That's almost 30 years ago, that completely opened up the economy without any restrictions except for military equipment or military ammunition or military hardware. Except for that, foreign investors can participate anywhere, 100%. And we know that we cannot compete with foreign investors in all sectors. So there has to be a way, and it is done everywhere all over the world. That's what you call negative list. You can Google it. Every country has a negative list. And the negative list describes how far you can go as a foreign investor, the sector you can go to, what percentage of investment you can hold, and all of that. And each country takes deliberate action to examine the capacity of its own citizens and use that to define the limits and scope of foreign investment. That is what should happen. We cannot have an economy where our indigenous people will become spectators in their own economy. That is the caution. Now, there has been a lot of complaint, for instance, from the maritime sector. Practically all the entire jobs there are being lost progressively. Now, you take the shipping. We do a lot of shipping. If you look at our total trade annually, it's not less than 70 trillion naira in terms of trade. And over 95% of this trade is done by sea. I'm talking of movement of merchandise trade. But the participation of our indigenous people in shipping is almost zero. We are shipping crude, we are using vessels, we are importing all sorts of things, and yet we don't have strong presence in terms of the shipping. This is contributing a lot to capital flight. And we have to have a deliberate policy to position our own citizens to be part of the process. We are not saying we want to take over everything, but we have to be part of the process. Then you do the shipment, the cargo lands here, the clearing, the issue of the bonded warehouses, the issue of the haulage, the delivery to the consumers is now being lost to foreigners. Is it that we don't have people who have capacity to do the clearing or to do haulage? Even if their capacity is not up to what the foreigners have, we should give them opportunity. Because it is through opportunity that they can also grow. So that is the challenge. Now, a lot of our indigenous people have invested in bonded warehouses. We now have foreigners, they bring in their container here. The shipping is not done by us. They do the clearing. We have clearing agents, they are being sidelined. They do the bond, they take the things to their own terminal. They're also constructing their own terminals. They have their own bonded warehouses, bonded terminals. They take it there, they deliver again to the end users. So the entire chain is being dominated by foreign people. Just as I said, we don't have anything against foreign investors. But let us define the limits. Let us define boundaries so that our own indigenous people can also be part of the action. And this should be replicated across all sectors. Let us define limits. Whether you are talking of telecoms, you are talking of ICT, you are talking of solid minerals, you are talking of commodity exports. I've heard of exporters. They have complained that some of these foreigners also are taking over commodity exports. They are going to the farms, they are exporting wood, they are exporting primary products, cocoa, and all of that. We should not allow that kind of thing. If there are gaps where we are really lacking in terms of maybe high technology, high level, I can understand. But there are things that our people can do. When I was in the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, there was a time the market women in Balogun came to see me to complain that in the market, some Chinese are coming to compete with them in the market, in Balogun market, in Okeani market. They were taking shops. How can they compete with Chinese? They don't have the capacity. You know, they used to be distributors to some of these Chinese. That was not enough for them. They now came down and are competing with them at the retail level. So they came to complain. The same thing, our guys in the Computer Village, they also came to complain that they used to be distributors to these people, but these people have now come down to Nigeria and setting up retail shops and competing with them. How can you, as a manufacturer, go to the market and be competing with your distributors and retailers? So these are major issues of equity. There are issues of economic nationalism. You know, we need to protect our own jobs. We are not saying that we don't need foreign investment, but we need to protect our jobs. We need to reduce capital flight. We need to localize some of these transactions. You know, so this is the crux of the matter. So if you have an NIPC Act that has been there since 1995, that liberalized practically everything, we need to revisit it. Just as we have been able to do with oil and gas sector. Let us look at the entire, all the other sectors as well. Yeah. We have our young engineers who are in ICT. We have people who are developing softwares.
Yes, sir.
Just to have a deliberate policy to give them opportunities so that they can also grow. And we reduce capital flight. We conserve foreign exchange. We ensure multiplier effect. So these are the issues. And that is why we express that concern at the maritime sector and other sectors of the economy, so that our citizens can also be in the mainstream of the economy. We cannot afford them to be spectators in the economy.
Thank you, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Now, you've spoken about the negative list, which is captured in Section 31 of the NIPC Act. And it's mostly three things. It's arms and production of arms and ammunition, production of narcotics or psychotropic substances, and production of military and paramilitary wear. So it goes, but the last segment says that, and anything the Federal Executive Council deems fit to be part of this list. So beyond actually trying to amend the NIPC Act itself, which is essentially to promote foreign investment in Nigeria, because you've spoken about other sectors, markets, computer village, software, freighting. Beyond trying to, the NIPC Act itself, you also spoke about local content, how we have the local content laws in oil and gas sector. So do you believe that the maritime sector just requires its own local content regulation specific to that? Or do you think that we need protectionism in different segments of Nigerian living? Because you spoke about market women and the computer village. So it seems you're speaking to a greater problem here in terms of protecting, having more protectionist policies, whether it be tariffs or barriers to entry for foreigners. Because the NIPC Act just says that the Federal Executive Council can tomorrow or this week just add the maritime sector to this act and they would be protected. So you don't need necessarily to amend that law. But in terms of local content protectionist laws, do you think that we need it in various sectors and not just the maritime sector?
Of course, we need it in various sectors. Because the mark of development of a country is not only about GDP and all of this, it's also about the extent to which your own people are part of the process. I mean, look at what is happening in the United States. One of the things that gave Trump victory was the issue of American First and the threat to American jobs by some of these imports coming from all over the place. That is what gave him victory. If a country as advanced as the United States can be very conscious of that, talk less of a country that is still struggling with a whole problem of unemployment, poverty, and all of that. So there has to be a collaborative framework between indigenous investors and foreign investors. And there has to be protection. We need to protect our own. There should be competition, I agree. But if competition is taking place within the country among the indigenous or people who are operating in the same environment, it's okay. But if we are bringing all sorts of imports to compete with local industries, there's no way they can survive. So protectionism is very important. That is from the point of view of tariff and all of that. We cannot open up our foreign exchange market to anybody to just go and import anything. These things are creating problems for the economy. There has to be some restrictions so that we concentrate on very, very important things, even in the use of our forex. So those things are there. Already the government has taken some initiatives. We have some executive orders on local content, for both things that are produced in the country and for services. But this has been targeted mainly at the public sector, particularly the federal institutions, that whatever they want to buy, they have to patronize what is made locally. It's only when it's not available locally, that is when they can import. The same thing, we also have Executive Order 5 or so, which also speaks to the use of domestic consultants and all of that for services. But these things have also not been properly implemented. There is no effective implementation. But more importantly, is to have it documented as a law. That's why I was talking about the negative list. For most of these countries, it is in their investment laws. Their list, you just read out our own negative list. It's restricted only to military issues. What of other economic activities? So we should have something that we have with the local content in the oil and gas sector. And oil and gas sector local content law is a very good example of the impact that such a law can have on the economy of the country, on indigenous participation, on the multiplier effect, on the building of capacity, on human capital development, on the conservation of foreign exchange. These are the values it has brought to oil and gas sector. That is why our people are able even to take over some of those activities when some of these people were living, some of the IOCs were living. So the same thing should happen in maritime. We cannot just leave the sector and allow anybody to be doing everything. No. It should happen in ICT. We have our young people who are doing great things, amazing things, incredible things in software development. There has to be deliberate policy on some of this. You need to look at our remittances abroad on services. It's going to billions of dollars. So when we talk about some of these monies going out, it's not only about physical imports or import of merchandise. There are billions of dollars going out on account of services imports. We need to look at all of these things. So it is very important, and we are seeing already all sorts of impunity with which some of these people just dabble into any sector and do what they like. So look at what is happening even in solid minerals. Look at what is happening to exports, commodity exports. So the point I'm making is that that law should be replicated in other sectors. That is one. Secondly, we should have the deliberate also about protection. Protectionism is done by many countries now. We are moving away from this concept of globalization, this concept of comply with WTOs. Even advanced economies are moving away from it. They're not talking about economic nationalism. But we have to do it in a way that we also don't create challenges for citizens. We can have a balance of this. Look at UAE, for instance. In UAE, their petroleum sector is completely for their nationals. Exploration, prospecting, whatever it is completely for their nationals. Their banking sector is exclusively for their nationals. Their insurance sector is exclusively for their nationals. Anything that has to do with Hajj or Umrah is exclusively for their nationals. You know, this is and that does not stop the development of UAE. Are they not doing well?
All right.
So that is the crux of the matter.
All right.
So as we progress with economic reforms, we should also be looking at this dimension of indigenous participation across sectors.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, I mean, I get your point clearly, and I like the fact that you mentioned the fact that government has also done quite a bit in the area of executive orders and in the areas of trying to diversify, the laws. But I have a few questions here that I'll need more clarity on. First of which will be the Nigeria First protectionism agenda, if you like, that you are promoting. Won't that draw some flack from those who might think that the manner in which Donald Trump went about it in the US, even though he eventually won convincingly, that it pushes the narrative closer, to right-wing agenda. And therefore, if you have Nigeria at this point saying that Nigeria first, protect everything Nigeria, even though, in principle, that's good. But business-wise, do you think that will be the right way? I get the point of you saying that we will have to balance it. But then if the key word here is Nigeria first, are we not risking the likelihood of others who are trying to invest here and might want to fight back? See what Mexico, what Canada, what China are trying to do with America in the area of tariffs and everything. And then two other important things that I would like you to speak to, given the point that we're the fact that we are running out of time, will be one, your submissions on the cabotage funds that you believe are not, being distributed effectively. Would you like to elaborate on that? Because that was one of the key points that you spoke to on Wednesday. And then more importantly, the area concerning IMASA and NNPC. And I believe that Navy will also be involved when you claim that no foreign vessels ought to do business in Nigerian waters, especially where we have the capacity to be involved. Will you want to clarify on those areas, Dr. Yusuf?
Yes, very quickly. Let me start with the cabotage. The cabotage law was one of the wonderful initiatives to ensure indigenous participation in our own coastal waters. That law was put in place almost 20 years ago. There was even a fund related to it. I don't know how much has accumulated in the fund. But as we speak, we haven't seen any tangible implementation of that policy. We see how foreign ships and all of that doing business on coastal waters. It is as if it's not enough to bring the cargo here. They're also moving it within our coastal waters. So it's also a major failure of policy implementation. So something has to happen. We need to get the Ministry of Blue Economy to look critically into that. Because these are developmental issues. Development is also about indigenous participation. So that is very key, because one is really very disappointed at the progress that has been made as far as the cabotage law is concerned. They are talking about a law of almost 20 years. So somebody has to step up. I'm not an operator in the sector, but I know that our investors in the shipping, indigenous investors in shipping, have been groaning about this. So something has to happen. We need to look into it. Then about protectionism. You see, we should not have apologies for this. What we are talking about is a win-win framework. What we are complaining about is that we have a situation where in some areas, the foreigners are dominating everything. How can you dominate from production to retail? The entire value chain. Do not even leave any space for domestic people to operate. We have manufacturers here. Once they produce and they hand over to their distributor, they don't go to the market and start competing with their distributors again. They stay away. Our people can be your distributors. You don't have to come to the market and be competing with them. Somebody has to take that. So there's nothing wrong with protectionism. Because if you over-liberalize the system, there's no way our manufacturers can survive. That is the truth. Because the environment is very difficult. You can't compare the environment of production here with the environment of production in China. We are talking of interest rates of 30% and above. Look at energy costs. Look at the challenges of forex and all of that. So we are not talking of a level playing field. That is why protectionism is important. We should not have apologies for it. But we must also do it in a way that will not draw the kind of flag. I'm not saying that we should go to the other extreme of protectionism, but we should also not go to the extreme of liberalization. That is the point I'm making. These are things that you can craft within our investment strategy space. We need to have a very clear, developmental-oriented investment policy. This is what it's all about. And I say again, indigenous participation is part of economic development. It promotes multiplier effect. It builds local capacity. That is what I'm saying. So we should not have any apologies about that. This is a big economy. Those who will come will still come. Investors are still going to UAE despite all these issues of negative list.
Right.
No? So that will be my submission to your question.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, very well understood, and I get the point too of buying Nigerian to grow the Naira. That will be the ultimate goal for this whole advocacy. Thank you so much for joining us on the morning show today.